Want to celebrate a milestone in your sobriety? Have a burning desire? Just want to say hi? Call our hotline at 937-203-8330.
I am an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I'm your alcoholic host, Raymond, and I'm here with Marcus today. Hello, Marcus. How you doing today?
Good morning, Raymond. I'm doing well, thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Marcus?
Well, I live in New Mexico, outside Albuquerque. 51 years old. I've been in recovery. My sobriety date is March 25th, 2020. I'm a Zoom baby, and I started my recovery journey in the height of the pandemic. Grew up in Colorado. I joined the military when I was 22 with a wife and child, and it's been an adventure. You know, ironically, when it comes to drinking, it wasn't really part of my story early on. I wasn't much of a drinker as a kid or a teenager, even as a young adult. I smoked a lot of weed in high school. Everyone did. And the only time we drank was when we would, you would get together for like a bonfire party every once in a while out in the middle of nowhere. People burn a bunch of pallets or something. You go out there and everyone's drinking and get drunk. But it was pretty rare. And, we would me and my brothers would sneak drinks from my parents, but it never really felt like something that I really liked or was really into. It was more that I was doing because other people were doing it at the time, and I wanted to fit in. As I got to be an adult and got married at 19, we didn't drink a lot as a young couple. My wife's older than I am, and she got pregnant shortly thereafter, and we were fucking dirt poor. Sorry, can I drop F-bombs occasionally?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna mark everything.
Okay. Sorry. We were dirt poor. Living in Alamosa, Colorado. Our heater furnace went out on our trailer, couldn't afford to get it fixed, had icicles forming on the inside of the windows. And it just got to the point with a wife and a newborn that had to do something. I was going to college at the time. She'd already graduated with a degree. We couldn't get a job because she was pregnant at the time when she was trying to find work. And so I looked at the military, and we joke about it because we're still married to this day. We joke about it. She could have gone in as an officer, but she couldn't see being apart from the baby. So I went in as a good old enlisted man, E2, and started from the bottom. But it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. After joining the military, went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, served there for a while, hated it. Got stationed to Germany, and that's really where I started to fit in a little bit more. I started to find people that I like to hang out with in the military, and that's where I really started drinking, I would say, more frequently and much more quantity. It just seemed to be something that everybody did, and every time people would hang out, there'd be a lot of drinking. And I think I didn't drink during the week much for a while, but then after a couple of years in the military, multiple deployments, and all the stuff that comes with that, it just became a thing where, and at the time, that's where I found out that beer could be good. When I was a teenager or younger, we would drink just for the effect, and it'd be freaking Paps or red, white, and blue or some other cheap shit that you could get your uncle who was of age to go buy or something. And when I was in the military, I found German beers were really good, and I would buy a rack, which is 20 different beers, all different varieties, Hefeweizens and Crystal Weissens and all these things. And then I started to drink more frequently, and I really liked the way it made me feel. I liked how comfortable I was. And then the social aspect of it, where I started to drink with other folks just because it was, it was like a fun activity to do. It progressed slowly. It's not, I look back, I don't really know at what point it really became a daily thing. I have a couple of key moments in my life where I know it was extra shitty. And I think I ramped up because I wanted to check out faster. We had some, I don't really want to go into too much detail on what happened in our family, but we had a really traumatic event. And one of my kids went through some pretty hellacious stuff. We tried to fight it with some legal stuff, tried to get some justice, and there wasn't any. And that whole event, a feeling, here I am, grown-ass man, would never would be what you would consider a mousy person. And I was unable to protect my daughter from some pretty hellacious stuff that she had to go through. And I think for me, that really was one of the times she was a teenager where I just really kind of tipped the scales. I think it happened a few times when my wife and I were having marital problems early on. When I was still in the military, I would drink more. So there were these moments that I remember that I would drink more socially, more on the weekends, not necessarily daily. And then something would happen and it would just be a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And this time with my daughter, I was already, I would say, probably drinking daily at that point, but not necessarily getting drunk every day. But after that, I really, and it's taken me almost 2 years to kind of realize where this threshold was. Early on, I didn't really know where I'd found it. It's part of this reevaluation process of seeing where these things happen and working with other folks in recovery. It's amazing. Working the steps with other people is like working the steps yourself. And I was really able to do a lot of self-evaluation over the last year by working with some other guys working through the steps. But anyway, I started getting to the point where I would get home from work. One of the things that I've said when I've shared my story before is I have a lot of not yets in my story. And early on, Oh My God was the place where I really came to feel accepted in AA. And early on, I said, I don't want to share my story. My story's boring. and some of the folks there's like, because not everyone has what I would call the rock star story, where, it's just unbelievable stuff that people had to go through to find their bottom. And I just consider myself tremendously lucky that I heard what I needed to hear, got what I needed to get where I am right now. And I didn't have to have that because I have a lot of not yets. I didn't lose my job. I never lost my marriage, although I know I came very close. And when we talk about step 0, I guess that's what I'll get on that as that turning point moment for me to get recovery or get help. But I hadn't lost a lot other than my own dignity and feeling of self-worth. I hated the person I saw when I looked in the mirror. And I would get home from work usually around 4:30, 5 o'clock my time, and I'd already have a couple of stiff drinks ready to go within 15, 20 minutes walking in the door. I progressed like I've heard a lot of people. I started with beer and other stuff, and then I was like, oh, well, this stuff is filling me up. I need something stronger so I can get to that effect faster, but I won't drink as much. So I started with like rum and Coke. And then that's just really what stuck with me is I would get home and my rum and Cokes became more and more rum and less Coke over the years. For the first, I would say 5-10 years of my serious drinking, I was what some would call a fun drunk. I would drink and it would just be more laughing, joking, not that wasn't as dark or as negative. And my oldest daughter even bought me a glass one year. This is many years ago. Said Dad's rum and Coke, so it become like a running joke just among the immediate family that, yeah, he drinks, but it's only these, there was all these buts or it's okay because it's not that bad. But when it started to get really to the point where I was getting drunk, I mean, could barely string a sentence together and walk across house without bumping into something. That started to happen pretty frequently about 5 years ago, I would say 5 to 7. And it just, this thing with my youngest daughter happened and I felt completely powerless and unable to protect her. And I just hated who I was. I was disappointed. I didn't like where my life had been, where my job was at. I just was piling onto myself as this horrible person. And the only thing that would let me not feel those feelings would be drinking. And I would get to the point where I was just, like I said, I was stumbling, bumbling by 8 o'clock at night. And, for several years, I thought I didn't have a problem. I could stop whenever I wanted. I would move the goalposts. I won't drink this weekend. See, I didn't drink last weekend. I'm fine. Or I would, we're going somewhere. I've got to be sober for this because I'm going to be driving. And I would do that often, early on, I would be able to do that. But progressively over the years, it got to the point where instead of recognizing that I couldn't do that anymore, I don't want to do that. I don't want to drive that. That's stupid. I don't want to be a part of that. And I would it all became about where I was going to get my next drink. We would go on vacation, which is one thing that we've always done, which remarkably, I'm grateful that managed to, for the most part, stay intact. But we would go on vacation and we'd get to where we're going to be in California or wherever. And, day one, I'm hitting the stores trying to find where the liquor's at so I can stock myself up for the week or two while we're there. And it just became a thing where I couldn't go a day or two without. And if I did, it was all I could think about. And I started hiding it. I would stop at a gas station on the way home from work. It's sold here in New Mexico. I don't know how it is in who's listening to this where your state is, but in New Mexico, you can buy Everclear at a gas station. So there's really no restrictions on getting a liquor license somewhere. So I was a gas station right on my way home, which I would top off my car usually. And what I would do is I would go and park at the pump 3, say, go in until the guy can get $20 in pump 3, and I'd buy my rum and Coke there, and I'd pay for it all in one transaction. So on my credit card, it would look like that I just stopped to get gas. Although at the rate I was consuming gas, it would probably raise some warning flags to anyone that really cared. But I would do that. And then I would get home and everyone knew I had a handle of rum in the fridge. And everyone knew that it was there. It was Dad's rum. And I would pop the little plastic spill-proof thing off the top and I would fill in the 500 or the 750 I just bought. Top that off so that way I could try to convince everybody that the levels in the rum was not going down that much every day. But, yet Dad was fucking shit-faced by 8 o'clock every night. So magically he's only drinking a teeny bit of rum, but yet he's getting drunk every night. What really started to get to the point where it became unmanageable is I've always had, since I was a kid, just angry at everything. So I just wanted to fight. I got into fights all through school. I would seek a fight. Someone would say something and I would use it as justification to get into a damn fist fight. And everything made me mad. I mountains out of molehills all the time. I could not control anger. When I was a kid, I would have blackout moments where I would get so mad that I would just lose awareness. I would come to. I had a moment. I had to go to mandatory counseling. I had a moment where, in middle school, where I beat a kid so bad, he threw a basketball, hit me in the face, and then taunted me afterwards. And all I remember is what he was saying. As it's like, "What, you got a problem with that?" And then that's all I remember. And the next thing you know, I come to and he's on the ground, and I'm smashing his head into the pavement. And this was something that the Army helped with, ironically, because, having angry outbursts is frowned upon. But it was just something I've had my whole life. And then as my drinking progressed, that toxic mix of, no inhibitions and being intoxicated while having the same rage issues, it just got to the point where I was no longer the fun drunk. I would say just some of the shittiest, hateful things to people and my wife and my kids. And my step zero, as they say, was my daughter, who she was having all sorts of issues, and looking back, justifiably so. But at the time, I felt disrespected and that she didn't value what we were doing for her as parents. And I took it out on her, and the vitriol came out on her when she dropped out of college. We were paying for her to go to school. She's going to the biggest school in the state, which New Mexico may not be the greatest, but it was the best in the state. And she's going to school and dropped out. She was too busy having fun with friends and smoking weed and not paying attention to her studies. And I can't even remember all the words that I said, but I remember her face as I just was assaulting her verbally and calling her everything and telling her how bad she was and what a piece of shit she was. And I just remember seeing like the life just deflated out of her face, and she just crumbled and was just heartbroken. And my wife, before this confrontation happened, we knew it was coming because my wife had been monitoring her grades. She was doing poorly. We anticipated she was probably going to drop out. And my wife had begged me to not drink that day so that way I could be sober when she showed up to have this confrontation. And of course I couldn't do that. And I was barely able to stand, but boy, I could dump years of resentment and disappointment and everything. And it just, the look on her face when she finally just caved and lost control and was crying, and she stormed out. Who at the time, she also had struggled with suicidal tendencies for years and had a lot of mental health issues of her own. And my wife is standing there. I'm just boiling with rage, and my daughter has stormed out, and she was 19 at the time. And she looks at me and she knows that, when I would drink and get to this point, a lot of the stuff that come out of my mouth, like the world would be better off without me. And, maybe I should just die so you guys can get the life insurance. And it's just the stuff, where the dark places where my head was at. And she looks at me and is like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I don't even remember. I think I said something like, "I don't know." And she had to decide. And she's like, this can't go on. I can't do this anymore. So, and she left to go after our daughter. And thank goodness, she found her and everything was okay per se. I mean, the ripple effects of that night lasted for quite a while. But the very next day, I said I would get help. So I looked up, I just fucking Google, which somebody in this program, that's his higher power. And I went to Google, was like, I have a problem with alcohol or something. I can't remember even what I put into Google, something along those lines. And these treatment centers in Albuquerque popped up. And I looked at one, I called the number on their website, and a guy called me back 30 minutes later. And I said, "I think I have a problem, and I think I need help." And I went in just filled out the stuff at the IOP, or signed up for an IOP program, voluntarily enrolled in one. Got an amazing addiction counselor who led the program. And early on, I was like, this shit ain't gonna work. I'm this AA stuff and this IOP. I'm just gonna do this to get people off my back initially. I know I have a problem, but if I can just stay clean for a little bit, I'll be fine. And then I'll be okay. I can go back to drinking responsibly. And that was even on my intake form, that you fill out this long form on why you're here and what you're looking for. And one of my goals was to learn to drink like a normal person. So I did the IOP, did that for a couple months. I actually never completed it. Even my counselor said at the time, she says, I think you would be okay if you set up a regular meeting schedule and get a sponsor that, because some of the folks in the IOP were court ordered, and it was pretty, for them, it was just a different spectrum of recovery need. But I kept with her, I would meet her twice a week, individually when I first not graduated, but left IOP. And then I was required to do certain meetings, required to get a sponsor, had to report to her all the stuff I was doing, and we would talk about it. And that went on for a few months. And, again, I didn't think I was just trying to bide my time. I wasn't sure this was going to work. And I don't know, around 6 months or so, things just started to click. The first meeting I found when I was directed to seek out AA, at the time, there were no in-person meetings. Because of COVID, there was none. So it was only online. And I found Oh My God, or my wife did actually. My wife found Oh My God because she knew that I'm an atheist. And I don't know, it was the second meeting, the first, second, or third meeting, I stayed, it's like, I need a sponsor, because I was required as part of this program. I had to have a sponsor. And a guy reached out. I actually had two people reach out to me from Oh My God. One of them is still there, Scott B. And it's funny because here I am, even at the time, I was like, I want the easiest way to do this shit. So Scott B gets hold of me and he says, I'll take you on as a sponsee, but you got to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm like, screw that. I ain't doing that. So the next guy that called me, Mike, my sponsor from Baltimore, we talked, and he said he would work the steps with me. If I was willing to work the steps, he'd take me on. And here I am, 2+ years later, he's still my sponsor. I think I got through the steps. It was around 14 months, I think, when I finally finished working the steps. And after, like I said, about 6 months, that's when the light bulb went off. I did my fourth step, and I shared in Oh My God how much I didn't want to do that. I was regretting. Did not want any part of the fifth step for weeks when we got to that. I mean, I got through steps 1, 2, and 3 pretty quick, and my idea of step 1, where I was powerless, that has kind of changed over time. Originally, I saw that as, well, I suck. I'm powerless. Yeah, I'm powerless over alcohol. Alcohol owns me. I'm its bitch. I get it. But now it's more like I've come to a place that this is something I don't want to go back. The lifestyle I have now, the people I've met, and how I feel about who I am, who I see in the mirror, is not the guy from 2.5 years ago. And I don't see this as a negative that this is the rest of my life. I see it as a positive that, yeah, I don't want alcohol in my life for the rest of my life. And step 2 is, I need help. And step 3, I need to follow direction. So even from a secular perspective, without the God stuff, I knew I needed help. I listened to what my sponsor said. I did what he said. I worked the steps. And after about 6, 7 months, it just started to click. The things started to make sense. The doing brought the understanding. And I was going to Oh My God, and I heard, I went to, they have speaker meetings last Friday of every month, and Jeremy had shared, And he went on about how more people need to get into service, that these meetings don't do themselves. We really need people to step up. If you really, I can't remember his speech, but he gave a pretty strong spiel about service. So I signed up for service. It was September of 2020 when I said, hey, I'd like to get in part of service, and never looked back. So, I mean, that was 6-7 months into my recovery. And between working the steps and doing service work, hosting meetings, doing taking calls from people, doing all the different service positions at the meetings, like the timer, whatever. It just, you get so close and deep into the relationships with some of the people that you just realize how amazing this fucking program is, how beautiful these people are. Because I've never, and at one point when I was growing, I was an evangelical, I was a Catholic, I was a confirmed Episcopalian. I tried to find throughout my life this sense of community and belonging, and it just never made sense to me. And then eventually I just said, yeah, I'm a fucking atheist. But I tried all these, several different denominations, and I was waving my hands and singing at church, trying to get this feeling. And I found that feeling in AA, because it's all about community. And that's what I think all the churchgoers get, is this: once you start to form these bonds with these people, it's like family, man. And I've never felt as loved and accepted by people I've never met anywhere in my life. I've gone to churches where they act really nice when you walk in, but it doesn't take long to find out that that's just an act. I've never felt that anywhere but here. I'm 51 years old, and I've never felt as accepted and cared about for who I am until I got into this program and started doing service and working with people behind the scenes. And I've started a meeting, online meeting. I've started an in-person meeting. This is one of the things, if I had any message that I would ever want to give anyone, it would be, that you only get out of this program what you put into it. And the work is hard. The fifth step was tough, man. I bawled like a damn baby to my sponsor over some of the stuff that I had done and not done, and some of the things I wasn't pressed for, and some of the people I had turned my back on, some of the people I had hurt. The 8th and 9th step, doing the amends. Some of that stuff was really fucking hard. I have a buddy at one of the meetings, James. He likes one of my drunk stories. I mean, I look back and laugh on them now. At the time, obviously, these are idiotic things that people could have got really hurt. But I had a neighbor who had a friend come over who had a dog that the guy didn't believe in leashing his dog. The dog comes over and tries to start a fight with my dogs, and it went on for several hours on like a Saturday, and I was completely pissed drunk. Family, what would often happen on the weekends is my wife would just go somewhere. So I would have most of Saturday or Sunday to myself, and I would just drink myself into oblivion. And I'm out there with a shotgun, screaming and yelling at my neighbor who's standing behind his wood pile because he's afraid I'm going to shoot at him, and that he needs to get this damn dog before I shoot this dog. And it's this, typical drunk redneck story. And, thank goodness no one got hurt, but I had to go make amends to that guy, and he's a horrible person, but I had to sit down and meet him on his terms and truly say, look, that day in this, a summer ago, that thing with the dog, I really feel horrible about my part in that. I know I could have handled that situation better. I feel terrible. I would like to make amends. What can I do? And he's like, no, it's fine. And we talked, and I'm like, no, I mean, I really want to do something. And so we had like a barbecue, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll buy all the food. I'll buy the food and we'll sit in your back porch. He's got this amazing smoker. I said, we'll smoke it up and we'll sit there. And it was a great day. It was everything the big book said it would be. I sat down with this guy that I don't like, that we don't spend a lot of time with outside of that moment because he's kind of a shitty person. But we had a great afternoon grilling meat and just visiting. And, and I told him about how what had happened that day and how horrible I felt and how bad I was drinking. And, and it was amazing, and most of the people I went to make amends with, it was everyone. And it's, people like to bash on the big book who are atheists. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that is great. And one of the things is often what happened with me was right out of that most of the people I went to make amends to were just fucking glad that I wasn't drinking anymore, that I was getting my life in order. And they were grateful for that. They didn't, it was pretty amazing to see the transformation in just other people, including my wife and kids. And, it's just one of those things. And then after you learn how to use some of these tools, and you get into that 10th step where you're trying to do this on a day-to-day basis. And step 6, 7, where I'm trying to work on my character defects. And it's not that I never get mad, but I don't have the moments that I had before, where I used to compare it to Thelma and Louise. I'd be like the car driving off the cliff. I couldn't stop it. I was already 4 wheels off the cliff by the time I realized that I had lost control of my anger. Now I still get mad. I mean, things piss you off, but it's so much faster that I'm able to say, wait a minute, how am I really looking at this? Is this really something that I should be? I mean, what is the benefit? And I can see the cliff before I hit it. And using the tools like taking a pause, thinking about the situation from the other person's perspective, which enables you to be empathetic and give that person a break. And if nothing else, dulls it. And all of these things that we've done with all these people over the last couple of years and all these meetings, gosh, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of meetings that I've gone to. I still go to the same I go to Reason Recovery 3 times a week. I used to go to Omagad 3 times a week. I kind of switched a couple out. But I still go to Omagad every week, at least once a week, every single week for over 2 years. I go to Reason Recovery. I host one meeting every week for them. Been doing that for well over a year and a half. And it's funny because as a newcomer coming in, you think, oh shit, I got to do this for the rest of my life. And it's like, now it's like, oh man, I get to do this for the rest of my life, because the whole perspective has changed. I look forward to the meetings, and in the days that I don't feel like going are the days I know I need to go the most. And I have yet to go to a meeting and not walk away feeling at least better, or as I never felt worse. And I very often feel remarkably better afterwards, because it's a beautiful community, man. And it's one of those things that a guy said in a meeting about a year ago, it's like our superpower. We work on ourselves, we do self-improvement, we learn these tools, and then we go to these meetings, we have this fellowship. And it's something that everyone in the world could benefit from. And it's really the most genuine thing I've ever found. And it's something that I hope sticks around forever. And, thank goodness for Zoom, man. I don't know where the world would be had this resource not come available and had not all these alcoholics jumped on it 2 years ago. Because I don't, it saved my life. And every day, if I have a chance to reach my hand out and help someone else get into that lifeboat, that's what it means to me. And I think I'm kind of rambling now, Raymond. What do you think?
I don't think you're rambling. I appreciate you being of service to me and for everyone that's going to be listening to this. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being a part of my recovery.
Raymond, I have loved seeing you pop in the meetings. I love the Rowdy Roddy Raymond. I don't know who first gave you that. It's been something that I love seeing you when you show up, and this podcast thing that you're doing. I had no idea you were doing this stuff, man. This is amazing stuff. It is really, really cool. And I'm honored that you wanted to hear my, as I call it, a very mundane story of, getting lucky. Because, I don't have the rock star story And I'm grateful that I didn't lose my marriage in this and I didn't lose my job. But I'm aware of how that I know that had I continued to do what I was doing, I absolutely would have. And I would have hoped that she would have left. If I hadn't gotten better, I hope my wife would have left because she deserved better than the shit I was doing. And, and now my relationship with my kids, they're grown adults, but my relationship with my kids is remarkably better than it was before. So yeah, it's everything, man. Everything's looking up roses, but, I always try to keep myself grounded. I hear the stories of the people who went out, and that kind of stuff for me is powerful, because there's people I respect greatly who I know have relapsed in their story. And it helps me focus and helps me maintain that grounding that, this is something one day at a time. And that, it is, as the book says, we're dealing with alcohol, cunning, it's a devious disease that, will trick us into thinking that we need it even when we're well. So it's tough stuff, but yeah, I don't know how this stuff works, man. It's the first time I've ever done this. Is there like a Q&A or what's the, I'm
you're doing fine. You're doing most of the work for me today. So I've just been sitting back and enjoying it. But no, I don't, as much as people think their story's mundane, or if it's not a rock star story or anything like that, that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. I believe everyone's story has a purpose, because alcoholism and addiction affects all walks of life.
yeah.
And with that, that's why I look at this as many paths to sobriety. Because it's not just traditional AA, and it's just not secular AA. It's not. It's whatever program's going to work for that person. And
Yeah.
the more people I can get on here and talk to and get them to share their story, they're doing a service. They could save someone's life someday, or it could relate to that person. I mean,
yeah, no, I get, totally. And, it's, and the other thing, like you were saying about secular AA, it's not just that, and it's not just traditional. There's an infinite number of paths to sobriety, and the only thing I know that's pretty steady is you have to. What's that old AA saying? If nothing changes, well, then nothing changes. You have to do something. You have to work something. You have to work on yourself. And I have to learn how to sharpen, as Doc once said, I love his analogy with the woodworking tools. I have to learn to use those versus the tools that I had. As some people have said, like Marcia said once, we have these survival skills that we learned from an early age. It kept us alive for many years. And alcohol was one of the tools a lot of people used. But we have to learn how to get proficient with our new tools and sharpen the new ones and continue to use them. So that way, when the going gets tough, or the going gets good, some people, it's a celebratory style thing. But, that we don't fall back on old habits, that we don't fall back on the tools that got us where we were, because they don't work anymore. I go back to drinking. I know where the fuck I want to be. I want to be as fucking shit-faced and rageaholic and pushing everyone and everything away from me that matters.
Yeah, because I get right back to those behaviors you worked so very hard on.
Yeah, you don't get right. It took decades to get to that.
Right.
I mean, I'm 51 years old. I got sober a little over 2 fucking years ago. So I didn't spend 49 years getting to that point to undo that in 6 months.
Yeah, I'm rounding to my 6 months here in about 3 days. I mean, part of my story is, I tried dry drunking this the first 60 days, and my wife tells me she wanted a divorce, and I'm like, okay, I'll get into AA, and then she'll take me back. And then the more I started putting the work into the program and actually just focusing on myself, that's where I started to see the change. I couldn't worry
Right.
about her leaving because that was going to be her decision, and if that's what she
Right.
wanted, I had to accept it, and I just had to focus on me and my sobriety. And once I started doing that and actually do what I was supposed to be doing in the first place,
Yeah.
you know, we just celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary on the 18th.
Fucking A, man.
We just
Yeah, fucking A.
we just closed on the old house this past Friday. Closed on a new house this past Monday and getting ready to move and moving on. And we're planning our 10-year wedding anniversary already. Gonna do something big because we never had the honeymoon. We're both workaholics, and I'm
Yeah.
the alcoholic workaholic, and
Yeah.
continue to change myself and for the better.
Yeah. Dude, that's beautiful stuff right there, Raymond. I am so fucking happy for you. Yeah, that is what it's about. That's 100% what it's about. I mean, it really, for me, that's all it's been is I work on me. Everything else just comes. You know, when I was that raging alcoholic, and like you said, if you don't do any work, you're just a rage person without the alcohol.
Right.
I you know, I was so all the ripple effects. You know, I was just this rage machine who was drinking to the point where I was checking out, and all those ripple effects were negative. I was just pushing everything and everyone away from me. Now I decided to work on myself. I started working my program to dig deep, to start doing service, to start really changing how I view the world and people in it, and seeing other people as just hurting people that need help instead of this anger machine that just wanted people to fix themselves and get the fuck out of my way. And it just, now the ripple effects are positive. You know, I was a year in and people started asking me to sponsor. I was like, man, I'm not ready. I'm a fucking baby. And then people I respect in the program, Nathan and these other people were, no, you need to do this. I'm like, okay, you know, back to the thing. I'm an idiot. I got here because I'm an idiot. Let me listen to other people and see what they have to say. And I get more out of doing stuff with sponsees than I think they could get out of me. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's the flow of positive energy, you know, being available and being of service for someone else. I selfishly get a lot out of that. And to see other people, I mean, like yourself, 6 months. Dude, I remember when you came into the room, you know, and you were just distraught, you know, and it's amazing to see in 6 months how far you've come. And I had a guy I was working with, and I told him that 'cause he was having a bad day. Like, dude, look over your fucking shoulder. Look how far you fucking come. Look at what's different in your life. Look at what's different in you. Look in the mirror and what's different. Look how much different you are today than you were just a few months ago. It's okay, man. You're gonna have bad days, but it's focus on what you're grateful for. Focus on where you've come that's positive. Turn that energy around. I said, you've come a long fucking way. I mean, dude, you're running a damn podcast. It's fucking amazeballs, man. Fucking awesome.
Well, I'm being
grateful to be
selfish
in the
one
room
now.
with you. Hey, man, I am grateful to be in the room with you, and I'm glad that you have found something that's pouring back into you, because you can only, it's like my sponsor says, you can only get what you give away. If you're not giving to this program and to other people, to other alcoholics, you're not going to get anything back. And so you can only get what you give away.
I agree.
So
I agree totally. I mean, it's like I said, this is part of my program now, and part
that's
of my
awesome.
journey. And you know, I was telling my, she goes, "Well, how long is this gonna last?" And I was like, "Well, the sobriety, I got to try to get that to last as long as possible. So I need to get this to last as long as possible too, because this needs to be part of my program. I can't guarantee anything right now. All I can do is focus on today."
Yep.
She just looked at me.
Yeah.
I was like, Yeah, this is the stuff I'm learning in AA. I can't guarantee what's going to happen tomorrow. All I can do is just focus on today, one day at a time.
It's amazing when people finally see that, and that's not something that comes easy. We often catastrophize. We look into next week. I got a big interview, or I've got this project that's due, or my kid's graduating high school, whatever. You got all these things the next weeks and the next months and the next years, and we allow those things to weigh on us. I'm not saying you don't plan ahead, and lay down a good foundation financially and prepare and, get your reservations early, whatever the case may be. But we allow those things to just weigh on it. I can't do anything about it. That day's going to come whether I want it to come or not. Right. I'm here right now. I can make the most of this moment and be present in this moment, because what did Doc say last night? It was great. And I think a lot of AAs have heard this. It's the first time that it's not the first time I heard it, but it's the first time I guess I remembered it. We have one foot in the past, and we have one foot in the future. All we have are 3 days. We have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And if you're keeping one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, then you're pissing on today. And and I was like, I know I've heard that analogy or something close to that before, but it just hit me like a ton of bricks last night, because it's true. Either we're focusing on things that we're resentful or guilty or shameful of in our past, and we're just like the Scarlet Letter. We're just whipping ourselves with that shit. Dude, that shit is long gone. That shit is.
I just call that kinky.
I mean, some of the. Huh?
I just call that kinky.
Hey man, to each their own, buddy. but I mean, we beat ourselves up over stuff that we can't change from our past. Then we turn around and beat ourselves up over how afraid we are about our expectations of the future. Well, this day has to be perfect. This has to be this way. I have to do this. No, man. You can be prepared, but when the day comes, and be present in it. Yeah. I shared a story last night about I was sitting at a Cracker Barrel with my wife. This is about a year ago, with my wife and her mom and some aunts. A lot of her family. I mean, we had hundreds of years of her family tree sitting at a table together. And I was able to sit there and just be in that moment. And I examined all their faces and their hair and and I just listened. And I'm telling you, man, it was a powerful experience. And it was just people having breakfast. But it was that moment of like, gosh, how special is this? I have my wife, I have her mother, I have all of her, these aunts and stuff. I mean, these are all people that I don't know if we're ever going to have this moment again where all these people in the same room at the same time, because they live all over the place, and a lot of them are elderly. So, and I just was like trying to appreciate their story and what they were talking about and how they looked. And dude, here I am over a year later thinking about that. That was having breakfast at fucking Cracker Barrel. Being present in the moment helps just see how special that moment is, because once it's gone, it's gone.
So it surprises me how much more you can relish on things.
Yeah.
After you get sober and actually pay attention to the program and work it.
I know, right? Oh man, I'm telling you. And I'm with, I don't know who said, I'm with whatever works, man. You want to do 6 steps, 4 steps, 12 steps, secular steps, traditional steps. I give a shit. Do what works for you to make you to where you can accept that change, because it's all about changing who we are. That's all it's all about. It's all about finding in me what I need to change so I can live a happy life. And then that in and of itself will cause the positive ripple effects around me. But it's about me. It's funny. It's a very selfish program. If you do it right, it's about, I need to work on me, and I need to be able to look in that mirror and be okay with who I am. And that's hard stuff when that person in that mirror for years was somebody I couldn't stand. And I don't have that anymore. It's like Mississippi Mike says, man, I pull out my gratitudes, man. Anytime my head gets into that darker spaces, and I start thinking about stuff in a bad light, like, oh gosh, my daughter, I hope she's okay. And then I start thinking about all the things. What if I lose her? I mean, no, get back. She's a beautiful human being. I have her now. Fucking call her. I've called my brother because of that. I was like, gosh, I haven't talked to my brother in like a year. Well, shit, what the hell? Why is that? So then I call it. So, being able to be present in that moment and be happy with who I see on the other side of the mirror is something that, that has been the biggest blessing in this program. And then all these people like you, man, everyone around me, total strangers, a bunch of fucking degenerate alcoholics who were just, nothing but openness and love to everyone else. I've seen, I'm grateful. This room, I don't know, you weren't there. So when my nephew killed himself 2 years ago, I was literally a week in the program, and I shared about it, dude. When stuff like that happens to people, the community, how it rallies around that person, man, I just don't, I've seen that in churches, but it never felt like it does here. It never felt as genuine. I've seen people rally around people in these rooms, people who've got years of service and, share about something that's going on and they're struggling that day. They got 10, I don't want to call her out, but one of them, she was having a really hard, someone with 10, 14 years of recovery, but it just life. They say life on life's terms, that life had hit her with a few uppercuts and a few body blows all in one day. And it was all really heavy stuff. And she did what we tell everyone to do. She came into the room. She shared about it. So I'm having a hard day. My fucking bucket is filling up. And then boom, everyone just, and she got through that day. As we say, one day at a time, she got through it. And it's been an amazing thing to see that happen over and over. I've seen that happen so many times. And oh my God, at Reason Recovery, I'm sure it happens there's so many great meetings out there. I mean, I have my niche of the ones I like to go to.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your experience. How's that go? Experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah, I hate that phrase. I've always hated that phrase. I mean, I'm all about sharing experience, and all about sharing hope, but man, I don't know about strength. I've never liked, I don't feel that I'm stronger than anyone else. I think I'm lucky. I think I was able to hear what I needed to hear, get what I needed to get before I had a rock star story.
Right.
And I consider myself stupid lucky for that, because I don't consider myself an extremely bright individual. So, so I think it clicked the right thing. I heard the right thing I needed to hear. And then when, like you said, once I started to see the changes, that's when it all started to make sense. After about 6-7 months, it's like, oh shit, I'm halfway up the hillside looking back on the valley, which was my life. And I was like, God damn, the view's fucking great up here. But and I've told that to other people. I have friends and family who struggle with addiction. I'm like, look, I can describe the view to you all day long. But until you walk up the side of the hill yourself, it's just words. You have to do the work. You got to work yourself up that hill. And then when you see how far you've come, it's at a beautiful view. But I can tell you that a million times, but until you see it with your own eyes, you're not, and feel it, like you said, until you start to see the change in yourself, then it's just words, so hopefully everyone gets that, man. Shit, alcoholics or not, I think just people in general could benefit from doing some of this shit. You take a clean and sober individual, stick their ass in a 12-step program and have them work those steps honestly, dude, everyone could benefit from this. It's just great that it's this community of addicts and alcoholics. It's amazing how well it has worked for me and for so many people I know. I mean, there's other shit out there. There's fucking, I heard this, Ring, there's Smart, there's, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff out there, man. Whatever will get you sober and get you living your life in a way that's constructive, man, go for it. Knock yourself out. Go meditate. Go friggin' go on a retreat. Go whatever, man. Do whatever works. You got to do it though. Ain't no one gonna come and no one's gonna come show up to your door and spoon feed you.
Nope.
This stuff. You got to do the work. Whatever the work is, you got to do the work. Well, man, I'm so honored that you asked. I'm grateful for you, Raymond. I really am. And every time I see you, man, you bring a smile to my face. So,
well, I appreciate you taking the time and doing this, man. It means a lot to me. Really does.
Yeah, me too.
So
well,
I'll let you know when the episodes start going up. I'm gonna try to get Mikey's ass on here now. So he's already texted me. Yeah.
That's great, dude. Well, you're doing great work, Raymond, and I look forward to it. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I'll
catch
you in a meeting soon.
All right. See you on the flip side, man. Take it easy.
Man. You too.
Bye.
Please help us. Help others that are in need of help. Subscribe, rate, and review our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other platform you can.